In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where empires of colossal alien civilizations towered over countless worlds, humanity was barely a blip on the radar. The galactic powers had long dismissed Earth as insignificant, an isolated, primitive world with no place in the grand design of the universe. Earth had its struggles, but the galactic overlords cared little for the affairs of a species so far removed from the heights of advanced spacefaring societies. But in the shadows of the galaxy, something unexpected was stirring. It was not the largest or most powerful species that would spark the next great war, it was a small, determined group of humans. The first sign came when a group of human soldiers, once captives of an oppressive alien regime, escaped their prison. These were no ordinary prisoners, they were Earth's elite special forces, trained in combat, survival, and tactics. When they broke free, they did not just flee. They began to strike back. They raided a few key outposts, causing a ripple of chaos that, at first, went unnoticed by the galactic empires. But this small act of rebellion was just the beginning. On Earth, a clandestine organization known as the Earth Resistance had long been forming in secret. These individuals, scientists, soldiers, politicians, and engineers, all dedicated to the survival of humanity, had quietly been building weapons, gathering intelligence, and preparing for the day when humanity would no longer stand idly by while their homeworld was overlooked and trampled upon. They knew they had no hope of defeating the mighty galactic empires through brute force alone, but they had something the aliens didn't: ingenuity, determination, and unity. In a hidden underground facility, far beneath the surface of Earth, humanity's greatest minds were working on a project that would change the course of history. Their greatest achievement was a device capable of bending the very laws of space and time. This technology, once perfected, could be the key to turning the tables on the arrogant galactic powers. It was their last, best hope. Meanwhile, the captives-turned-rebels began recruiting more of their own kind, an unassuming species that had never known intergalactic warfare. They were skilled, resourceful, and most importantly, they believed in the impossible. The humans rallied together, their numbers growing quickly. They quickly established small, stealthy cell groups across the galaxy, preparing to strike wherever they could. Aboard a massive galactic warship, the tyrannical Zorathian Emperor, the leader of one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy, had learned of the mysterious human rebels. His advisors dismissed the threat at first. After all, who would fear a species so insignificant? But Emperor Zoratha's instincts told him otherwise. There was something about this rebellion that felt different. A sense of urgency, a determination that even the most powerful military forces couldn't crush easily. Despite the Zorathian Empire's might, their most advanced weapons and fleets had been rendered virtually ineffective against the humans' new tactics. Human ingenuity had created an entire new strategy for fighting in the cosmos, one the aliens couldn't predict. The humans didn't fight with overwhelming numbers or sheer force, but with surprise, clever traps, and the element of unpredictability. The first major blow to the galactic powers came when a small human fleet, led by a seasoned commander, managed to infiltrate one of the most fortified space stations in the galaxy. Using a combination of hacking, sabotage, and guerrilla warfare tactics, they disabled the station's defenses and neutralized a fleet of Zorathian warships. The humans did the impossible, and in doing so, they sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The galactic empires, stunned and confused, realized they had underestimated the humans. They were no longer just a nuisance. This small, seemingly insignificant species had just made a statement: they would no longer be passive subjects of galactic oppression. But there was still much to do. While the humans celebrated their first victory, they knew they had only begun. The road ahead would be filled with unimaginable dangers. They would need to infiltrate alien strongholds, outwit advanced AI, and face overwhelming opposition. But one thing was certain: humanity had proven they were more than capable of shaking the galaxy to its core. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where empires of colossal alien civilizations towered over countless worlds, humanity was barely a blip on the radar. The galactic powers had long dismissed Earth as insignificant, an isolated, primitive world with no place in the grand design of the universe. Earth had its struggles, but the galactic overlords cared little for the affairs of a species so far removed from the heights of advanced spacefaring societies. But in the shadows of the galaxy, something unexpected was stirring. It was not the largest or most powerful species that would spark the next great war, it was a small, determined group of humans. The first sign came when a group of human soldiers, once captives of an oppressive alien regime, escaped their prison. These were no ordinary prisoners, they were Earth's elite special forces, trained in combat, survival, and tactics. When they broke free, they did not just flee. They began to strike back. They raided a few key outposts, causing a ripple of chaos that, at first, went unnoticed by the galactic empires. But this small act of rebellion was just the beginning. On Earth, a clandestine organization known as the Earth Resistance had long been forming in secret. These individuals, scientists, soldiers, politicians, and engineers, all dedicated to the survival of humanity, had quietly been building weapons, gathering intelligence, and preparing for the day when humanity would no longer stand idly by while their homeworld was overlooked and trampled upon. They knew they had no hope of defeating the mighty galactic empires through brute force alone, but they had something the aliens didn't: ingenuity, determination, and unity. In a hidden underground facility, far beneath the surface of Earth, humanity's greatest minds were working on a project that would change the course of history. Their greatest achievement was a device capable of bending the very laws of space and time. This technology, once perfected, could be the key to turning the tables on the arrogant galactic powers. It was their last, best hope. Meanwhile, the captives turned rebels began recruiting more of their own kind, an unassuming species that had never known intergalactic warfare. They were skilled, resourceful, and most importantly, they believed in the impossible. The humans rallied together, their numbers growing quickly. They quickly established small, stealthy cell groups across the galaxy, preparing to strike wherever they could. Aboard a massive galactic warship, the tyrannical Zorathian Emperor, the leader of one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy, had learned of the mysterious human rebels. His advisors dismissed the threat at first. After all, who would fear a species so insignificant? But Emperor Zoratha's instincts told him otherwise. There was something about this rebellion that felt different. A sense of urgency, a determination that even the most powerful military forces couldn't crush easily. Despite the Zorathian Empire's might, their most advanced weapons and fleets had been rendered virtually ineffective against the humans' new tactics. Human ingenuity had created an entire new strategy for fighting in the cosmos, one the aliens couldn't predict. The humans didn't fight with overwhelming numbers or sheer force, but with surprise, clever traps, and the element of unpredictability. The first major blow to the galactic powers came when a small human fleet, led by a seasoned commander, managed to infiltrate one of the most fortified space stations in the galaxy. Using a combination of hacking, sabotage, and guerrilla warfare tactics, they disabled the station's defenses and neutralized a fleet of Zorathian warships. The humans did the impossible, and in doing so, they sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The galactic empires, stunned and confused, realized they had underestimated the humans. They were no longer just a nuisance. This small, seemingly insignificant species had just made a statement: they would no longer be passive subjects of galactic oppression. But there was still much to do. While the humans celebrated their first victory, they knew they had only begun. The road ahead would be filled with unimaginable dangers. They would need to infiltrate alien strongholds, outwit advanced AI, and face overwhelming opposition. But one thing was certain: humanity had proven they were more than capable of shaking the galaxy to its core. Humanity's unexpected rise from the ashes of oppression had rattled the galaxy, but the galaxy's powers were far from willing to roll over. They were angry, vengeful, and prepared to wipe out this insignificant species before it could disrupt the balance of power once more. Their leaders, embarrassed by their previous underestimation of humanity, were now bent on making Earth and its people an example to the rest of the galaxy. In response, the Earth Resistance was accelerating its efforts, preparing for a pivotal strike that could turn the tide of the war. The wormhole technology had been fully operational, allowing humanity to hit Zorathian supply lines and military strongholds across vast distances. But as the human forces made more audacious moves, the Zorathians adapted quickly, closing in on Earth's rebel fleet. The Resistance was now fighting a two-front war, one in the stars and one on their own planet. The Galactic Empires, furious at the loss of strategic outposts, began collaborating in ways they never had before. The Zorathians, joined by the Kroth, a race of cold-blooded conquerors, and the Monrothi, a hive-mind species with unparalleled telepathic abilities, launched a full-scale assault on Earth's last remaining defenses. They knew that if they could obliterate humanity's homeworld, they could eliminate the heart of the rebellion once and for all. Captain Alara Bryant, the human symbol of resistance, knew that this would be the greatest test humanity would ever face. The odds were against them, and the fight would be brutal. The Galactic Alliance of Empires had grown stronger, and their forces were relentless. The Resistance had spent months building up their countermeasures and fortifying Earth's defenses, but it wasn't enough. Despite their superior technology, humanity was still vastly outnumbered. The first major attack on Earth came from the Zorathian flagship, the Iron Spear, which arrived with a fleet of over 1,000 warships. They bombarded Earth's surface with devastating firepower, targeting cities, military bases, and any vital infrastructure. Earth's last line of defense, a handful of human capital ships equipped with makeshift weapons, tried to hold their ground. But the battle quickly turned in favor of the Empires. The human fleet was overwhelmed, and it seemed as though Earth would fall. On the ground, the human resistance was engaged in guerrilla warfare. Alara and her team, now part of a massive underground network, fought to protect civilians and slow the Empire's advance. Yet, with every passing day, the situation became more desperate. Entire cities were leveled. Billions of lives were at risk. The Resistance was on the verge of collapse. But in the face of this overwhelming destruction, humanity showed its true strength. It was not in their firepower, not in their advanced technologies or their cunning tactics. It was in their resilience. Even as their world burned, the humans did not surrender. They fought not because they thought they could win, but because they refused to allow their home, their families, and their future to be destroyed by beings who had no understanding of the value of life. Humanity's resilience had caught the attention of the galaxy's oppressed species once again. The Valtari, who had fought alongside humanity in the first wave of attacks, were the first to respond. Their ships arrived in Earth's orbit, bringing with them a fleet of rebels from other worlds that had suffered under the Galactic Empires. With the humans holding off the Zorathian assault on the ground, the Valtari and their allies launched a counteroffensive in space. The tide of battle began to turn as their ships engaged the Zorathian fleet in a series of hit-and-run strikes, keeping them distracted long enough for human forces to regroup. But this was not enough to save Earth. A single, massive ship, the Zorathian dreadnought Desolation, was closing in on the planet, preparing to deliver the final blow. Alara and her team knew that it was only a matter of time before the ship would begin its assault. They had no choice but to confront this enormous threat head-on. They did what humans had always done best: they outthought their enemies. The Resistance's scientists and engineers had been working on an experimental weapon, a massive anti-shield cannon designed to pierce the energy fields of the Empire's most formidable ships. It was a long shot, but it was humanity's last chance. In a daring move, Alara's team, supported by their alien allies, launched an attack on Desolation. The mission was dangerous, and they knew the odds were slim, but it was their final stand. As their ships engaged the Zorathian dreadnought, the Resistance infiltrated the vessel, and Alara led a team of elite operatives straight to the core. They had one shot to disable the dreadnought's main reactor before it could open fire. In a high-stakes mission that would determine the fate of Earth, the humans pushed themselves to their physical and mental limits. Every moment was filled with tension. They fought tooth and nail to reach their objective. As they closed in on the reactor, the countdown to their success, or failure, began. This was humanity's greatest test yet. The outcome of the war, the survival of their species, and the future of the galaxy all rested on their shoulders. And no matter what happened, humanity would fight to the bitter end. Alara Bryant and her team raced through the darkened corridors of the Zorathian dreadnought Desolation, the constant hum of alarms and the thudding of distant explosions echoing in the tight spaces. They had infiltrated the colossal vessel, but now time was their greatest enemy. The countdown to the activation of the massive cannon was ticking down fast, and the fate of Earth, and the galaxy, hung by a thread. Almost there, Alara muttered, gripping her pulse rifle tighter as she turned a corner, scanning the area for any sign of enemy patrols. The ship's corridors were littered with the remains of Zorathian soldiers who had been caught off guard by the human insurgents' attacks. Humanity's surprise strikes were causing chaos aboard the dreadnought, but the aliens were regrouping fast. "We've got a company of Zorathian Marines up ahead," one of Alara's team members, Lieutenant Mark Daniels, reported. He was a seasoned veteran, and his voice was steady despite the mounting pressure. "They're moving toward the reactor core." "Keep it tight," Alara ordered. "We have no margin for error now. We're not leaving here without that reactor down." As they moved closer to the reactor room, the atmosphere grew more intense. The lights flickered and the sounds of enemy soldiers searching for them filled the air. But the humans were undeterred. They had faced impossible odds before, and each time, they had risen to the challenge. This time would be no different. The final approach was the most perilous. Alara's team had to breach a heavily fortified door to reach the reactor's main control. The Zorathians had anticipated their infiltration and reinforced the area with a heavy security presence. They weren't just going to let the humans destroy their prize without a fight. With a swift, well-coordinated maneuver, Alara's team breached the door, sending a barrage of explosives to clear the path. The resulting explosion sent waves of debris flying and briefly stunned the enemy. The humans advanced, with Daniels and his squad leading the way, taking out any Zorathian soldiers who dared to challenge them. As the battle raged around them, Alara and her closest companions reached the reactor's core control room. The sight before them was a testament to the Zorathian Empire's technological might. Towering energy coils, plasma conduits, and shimmering energy fields protected the reactor from sabotage. But none of that mattered now. The humans had come for one thing: to bring it all down. "Plant the charges," Alara said, her voice calm but urgent. The team's demolition expert, Sergeant Emily Hayes, quickly began setting the explosives along the reactor's critical energy nodes, while the rest of the team held off the incoming Zorathian soldiers. The tension in the room was palpable. They had minutes, maybe less, before the Zorathians overwhelmed them. "Charges set," Hayes called out, her voice tight with the weight of what they were about to do. "This place is going up in a big way." Alara nodded, signaling her team to fall back. "Let's move. Now." The humans began retreating to a safe distance, but just as they did, the Zorathian forces stormed the room. The team was surrounded, and the final confrontation was about to unfold. The Zorathians, desperate to stop the destruction of their flagship, threw everything they had at the humans. It was a brutal, bloody fight, with gunfire and energy blasts lighting up the darkened corridors. Alara's team fought with everything they had left, knowing that their lives weren't the only thing at risk. Minutes felt like hours as the countdown reached its final moments. The Zorathian forces began to fall back, but not without inflicting heavy losses on the humans. Alara took a blow to her side as she covered one of her teammates, the sharp pain shooting through her body. But she didn't stop. She couldn't. The survival of her species depended on this mission's success. Finally, the timer hit 0. An explosion shook the entire ship. The reactor core, overloaded by the carefully placed charges, erupted in a flash of blinding light. The shockwave tore through desolation, ripping apart the heart of the dreadnought. The humans, barely escaping the blast radius, stumbled back to their waiting ships, their mission accomplished. But as they watched the Zorathian dreadnought disintegrate before their eyes, there was no time for celebration. The shockwaves of the explosion had drawn the attention of the rest of the galactic fleets. The galaxy's empires would not let this act of defiance go unanswered. They were coming for Earth, and they were coming with everything they had. Back on Earth, the resistance forces were preparing for the inevitable counterattack. The explosion of desolation had shaken the galaxy's greatest powers, but they weren't about to let a small group of humans dictate the future of the galaxy. Earth's defenses were stronger than ever, but they were still facing an overwhelming enemy. Alara and her team had delivered a blow that would be remembered for generations, but the war was far from over. Humanity had proven that they could stand up to the galaxy's most powerful empires. But now, they would need to take the fight to the next level, before it was too late. The destruction of the Zorathian dreadnought Desolation sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The powerful empire was reeling from the loss of one of their most formidable warships, and their once unshakable confidence was replaced by a desperate hunger for retribution. But despite their fury, the galactic empires could not ignore the reality that humanity had proven it could not only survive but strike with devastating precision. Alara Bryant and her team returned to Earth, their faces grim despite the victory. The war had escalated into something far larger than they had ever anticipated, and now the Resistance had become the galaxy's most wanted target. Humanity had dealt a powerful blow to the Zorathian Empire, but in doing so, they had painted a giant target on their homeworld. Back on Earth, the Resistance's leadership had called an emergency summit to assess the situation. Alara stood before a room filled with the brightest minds from every species in the Coalition, her gaze heavy with responsibility. They had united in the face of the Galactic Empire's oppression, but the next steps would determine whether they could continue to hold their ground. The Zorathians won't stop until Earth is in ashes, Alara said, her voice unwavering. We've crippled their fleet, but they'll rebuild. We have to strike before they can come back for us. Captain Lyra Vashti, a Valtari commander who had become one of humanity's closest allies, spoke up. Our intelligence shows the Zorathians have started calling in reinforcements from all over the galaxy. They'll have a new fleet within weeks. But there's more. The Monrathi have begun mobilizing their forces as well. If the Galactic Empires unite, we won't stand a chance. We need a strategy that gives us the upper hand, Alara replied, steely determination in her eyes. It's not enough to fight them on the battlefield. We need to hit them where it hurts, at the heart of their power. The Coalition's leaders spent hours strategizing, weighing the risks of attacking key Imperial strongholds. But the answer they all came to was clear: if they were to have any hope of survival, they needed to cripple the Empire's ability to unite and respond as a single force. The Zorathian Empire was the biggest threat, but it wasn't the only one. The Kroth and Monrathi were equally dangerous. If they could divide and conquer, they might have a chance. As the Coalition worked behind the scenes to prepare for their next phase, Alara turned to one of her most trusted lieutenants, Commander Julian West, the mastermind behind humanity's guerrilla tactics. Julian, we need to hit their communication hubs. If we can isolate the Zorathian Empire and the other factions, we can prevent them from coordinating their efforts. We need to sow division. West nodded grimly. It'll be risky. We're going up against some of the most secure systems in the galaxy, but I believe we can do it. With the plan set in motion, Earth's forces moved swiftly to target the most vital communication networks of the Galactic Empires. The Resistance's elite forces infiltrated several key stations located in the Zorathian and Kroth borders, disabling their long-range communications and scattering their fleets. The success of these operations created a ripple effect. Without the ability to communicate and coordinate, the Empire's ability to unite and respond to the human threat began to falter. As the days passed, reports from across the galaxy began to show signs of weakness. The once imposing fleets of the Galactic Empires were scattered, vulnerable, and struggling to regroup. The Zorathians were forced to send their forces in a desperate scramble, attempting to plug the holes that had been torn in their once impenetrable lines. Meanwhile, the Monrathi, long known for their telepathic hive mind, found themselves isolated, unable to coordinate their deadly swarm of warriors effectively. Yet, despite the success, the Resistance's victory felt like a brief respite. The Galactic Empires were far from defeated, they were regrouping, adapting, and learning from their mistakes. The Resistance's actions had delayed the inevitable, but it hadn't stopped the coming storm. Soon, their enemies would rally once more. Alara knew that the human race had reached a crossroads. The successes in disrupting Imperial communications and weakening their fleet cohesion had given humanity an edge, but it was only a temporary one. The Zorathian Empire would learn from their mistakes, and the other galactic empires would strengthen their resolve. But there was something else, something that made Alara uneasy. Reports had started trickling in from the farthest corners of the galaxy about strange occurrences, vanishing fleets, unexplained disappearances, and uncharted systems that seemed to warp out of existence. Something, or someone, was hunting the galactic empires from the shadows. The Resistance's leadership had no answers, but the chilling possibility that a new, unknown force had entered the fray loomed large. Whoever or whatever this new entity was, it had the potential to be an even greater threat than the galactic empires combined. For the first time since humanity's rise, Alara felt doubt gnawing at her. Was this the beginning of the end for the galactic empires? Or had they merely scratched the surface of an even darker and more dangerous conflict? The storm that had once seemed inevitable now felt like a distant thunderclap on the horizon. And it was fast approaching. The uneasy calm that followed humanity's recent victories was deceptive. The Resistance had dealt a serious blow to the galactic empires, but something deeper was unfolding in the dark corners of the galaxy. Strange reports continued to surface, filled with whispers of an unseen force, one that was neither Zorathian, Kroth, nor Munrothi. These disturbing accounts, often dismissed as rumors, were now undeniable facts. Fleets and colonies disappeared without a trace. Entire star systems were wiped from star charts, as though they had never existed. Zorathian and Munrothi ships sent to investigate were never heard from again. What was even more alarming was that this force, whatever it was, seemed to operate with a level of efficiency and precision that far surpassed the military might of any known galactic empire. Alara Bryant sat in the command center of the Resistance's flagship, her face drawn with concern. The latest transmission had been unsettling. A Kroth battalion had gone missing, one of the most feared military units in the galaxy, known for their brutal tactics. They were on the frontier, monitoring uncharted space near the edge of the galaxy, and now there was nothing. Not even wreckage. Just silence. "Captain," said Lieutenant West, his face grim. "We've just received another transmission. It's from a Zorathian fleet. They've confirmed that something, or someone, has wiped out one of their main shipyards. This wasn't an attack. It's as if the entire station, along with its fleet, just vanished." Alara's pulse quickened. She had heard the rumors. Now, it seemed they weren't just rumors, they were signs of something more sinister, something that even the galaxy's mightiest empires could not control. "What are we dealing with?" she asked, trying to maintain a calm exterior despite the growing dread inside her. West exchanged a look with his fellow officers. "We don't know yet. But these attacks, if that's what they are too precise. It's almost as if this force has knowledge of every move the empires are making. They can strike at the heart of their defenses with no warning. It's terrifying." The Resistance had been gearing up for their next offensive against the Zorathian Empire, hoping to capitalize on the disarray caused by the recent communications sabotage. But now, with these new threats looming, they found themselves facing a dilemma. Should they continue their campaign, or should they try to find out who, or what was behind these sudden disappearances? As the minutes passed, the transmission data began to show more alarming signs. The Zorathians had lost contact with their outer colonies, the ones closest to the unknown regions. The Kroth, too, were reporting similar incidents along their borders. It was as though an invisible enemy was hunting them, picking them off one by one, with no sign of where they came from or how they struck. "We need to know who's behind this," Alara declared, her voice steady. "We're not just going to sit back and wait for them to come for us next." A new strategy took shape. The Resistance needed to find the source of these mysterious attacks before they found Earth. They began collecting every bit of data available, from intercepted transmissions to decrypted communications from the fleets that had gone missing. What they discovered was chilling. There were no clear indications of any specific species behind the disappearances. But one thing stood out: every attack seemed to happen along the same vector, originating from deep within the uncharted regions of the galaxy, a place few dared to venture. It was a black void on the star maps, a place of dangerous anomalies and ancient mysteries. Captain Lear of Ashti, leader of the Valtari forces, had been working with the resistance on deciphering the patterns of these strikes. "We've been monitoring these regions for years. No one goes there, no one, she said. It's too dangerous, too unpredictable. But the data we've gathered suggests something has emerged. Something powerful." The resistance knew that to face this threat, they had to take the fight to the unknown. Alara's mind raced. There were only two possibilities. One, that this was a new and far more dangerous enemy, something that had been lying dormant in the darkness of the galaxy, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Or two, this was the final retaliation of the Galactic Empires, an entity created by them to neutralize the growing human resistance. But even if the latter was true, it didn't explain the precision and deadly efficiency of the strikes. The choice was clear. They couldn't afford to wait any longer. They needed to send a reconnaissance mission into the void, into the heart of the unknown regions, to learn what they were up against. With a team of the most skilled pilots and tactical experts, Alara and a select group of resistance soldiers embarked on a journey that would take them far beyond the safety of known space. Their mission: to find the source of the disappearances, and to put an end to the force that threatened not only Earth but the future of the galaxy. As their ship neared the edge of uncharted space, an eerie silence fell over the crew. The stars seemed to fade, the darkness around them closing in. Every instinct told Alara to turn back, but she knew that this was the only option. They had come too far to retreat. They were entering the unknown. And whatever lay ahead, they had no choice but to face it. The darkness of uncharted space pressed in on the resistance team, as they ventured deeper into the mysterious void that had been the source of so many galactic disappearances. Alara Bryant stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the holographic map, which showed nothing but the black expanse ahead. It was unnerving, even for her. But she had come this far, and there was no turning back now. "We're getting closer," Lieutenant West reported from his station, his voice low and tense. "All systems are stable for now. No sign of any immediate threats." Yet, the unsettling silence only grew. No communication signals, no star systems, no sign of life. It felt as though they were the last remnants of reality, slipping further into an abyss. Alara's grip tightened on the command console. The feeling that something watched them, waiting for them to venture deeper, lingered in the pit of her stomach. Suddenly, a flicker appeared on the radar, a faint pulse of energy, radiating from deep within the void. At first, it was small, almost imperceptible. Then, it grew. It was as though something was awakening. "Captain," West said, his voice quickening. "We've got an anomaly. It's not just an energy signal. There's a massive gravitational pull at its core. A singularity, but it's unlike anything we've ever detected. It's moving." Alara's heart skipped a beat. The concept of a moving singularity was incomprehensible, a cosmic impossibility, and yet here it was, right in front of them. "Set a course," she ordered, voice unwavering despite the sense of dread clawing at her. "We need to investigate. If it's a weapon, we can't afford to let it continue to destabilize the galaxy." The crew worked in unison, navigating their ship toward the source of the anomaly. As they approached, the singularity's gravitational pull intensified. Alara could feel the shift in the ship's trajectory, the hull groaning under the strain. It was clear now that this wasn't just some weapon, it was a cosmic entity, a force of nature on an unimaginable scale. Suddenly, everything went dark. The lights aboard the ship flickered out, and the crew's instruments malfunctioned. Panic rippled through the team, but Alara held firm. "Stay calm. We're not alone in this," she said, her voice cutting through the growing tension. Then, out of the darkness, an image began to form, an ancient, fragmented face, one that seemed to shimmer like a projection, flickering in and out of existence. The voice that followed was like a chorus of countless beings, speaking in perfect unison. "Humanity, you have wandered too far. You were never meant to find us. The voice sent a chill down Alara's spine. She could feel the weight of the words, the truth they carried. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't some artificial construct created by the galactic empires. It was something older, something far more dangerous. We are the Valorii, the voice continued. We were here before the galaxies. We were the architects of the very stars, the creators of the universe's first civilizations. And now, you have awakened us from our long slumber. The resistance team was frozen in shock. The Valorii were not a myth. They were not just legends whispered about in the darkest corners of the galaxy. They were real, and they had been watching humanity from afar. You seek to challenge the empires, the Valorii's voice reverberated. But you cannot defeat them. You are not ready. You are mere children in the grand scheme of existence. Alara stepped forward, her voice clear and resolute. We're not afraid of you. The face of the Valorii flickered again, and a surge of energy rippled through the ship. It was as if their very thoughts were being probed, their minds laid bare. But Alara didn't falter. You've made a mistake, she said. We may be young, but we are strong. And we will never bow to anyone, not even you. For a long, tense moment, there was silence. The Valorii seemed to study her, as if contemplating this human resistance. Then, slowly, the image of the Valorii began to fade, and the voice spoke one final time. Perhaps, you have more potential than we thought. But know this, human. We will watch. And when the time comes, we will test you. With that, the ship's systems returned to normal, the strange anomaly fading into the void. The crew was left in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just encountered. Alara turned to her team, her face a mix of disbelief and determination. We've only just begun, she said, her voice firm. The Valorii are real. And if they are watching us, then we will show them what humanity is truly capable of. The resistance had struck a blow against the galactic empires. They had shattered the old balance of power. But now, they were facing a much greater threat. The Valorii were ancient and powerful, but humanity's resilience, determination, and resourcefulness would not be so easily wiped away. And so, the battle for the future of the galaxy raged on, not just against the empires, but against an even older, more terrifying force. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. And now, the universe was about to learn the true meaning of resistance.